Hello. Hola, buenos dias. Crappy day weather-wise, wonderful weekend football-wise. This is one of these weekends where you feel genuinely sorry for those suckers who spend time watching Bundesliga, Serie A, League One, Premier League. Bollocks to them. This is what it's all about. Barça smashed, El Mundo Deportivo. The run comes to an end, say Sport Pro Blamini had a bit of a night of it. I Liga, one of the great expressions of Spanish football. The league is on, I Liga, there is a league. Finally, this is a little clever one. Mark, I don't put Barcelona's, not humiliation, but upset up in Anoeta on the front page. They've got Arbeloa prepping up for the visit of Monaco in the Champions League tomorrow, but they say the league is right at its sharp point, but the league lead is also down to a point, so that counts as wordplay. I've got no doubt about that. So fun and fury all the way on Jornada 20. And having mentioned it, let's start with Real Sociedad against Barcelona. It was a 2-1 defeat, the leaders lose, and the Royal Society had a royal old time of it. Real Sociedad's Anoeta Stadium is the place where Barcelona have lost the second most times this century, after the Bernabeu, of course. And even though La Real are on their third coach of the season, they genuinely seem to have picked a beauty this time. In this forum, I've been telling you about Rino Matarazzo for some time since he joined, and talking about his attitude, his coaching, and his playing philosophy, which all seem to, gracias, comes my coffee, have hit a chord with the big players. So they're at it again. And the thing I keep saying is that this coach, once he's sparked his best players into life again, has lots of resources if he can count on Kubo, Carlos Soler, Brais Mendes and Guedes and Oyarzabal all in the same starting 11, all playing well, and all performing with renewed confidence and energy. That's a barrel load of talent, and they started against Barcelona. It takes a really daring coach, in my opinion, plus the knowledge that all these velvet players are going to add an iron fist to the team's performance. It takes courage to play them all. If you watch the game, you'll already know about Barcelona's disallowed goals, the 5 times they hit the woodwork, yes 5, the absolute brilliance of Real Sociedad's goalkeeper Alex Remiro, just at the time when his Spain squad place is coming under scrutiny because of the guy in the other goalmouth last night, Joan Garcia. But I want to put the microscope on a couple of things beyond run of play. First of all, kudos to the home team for the way in which they threw bodies forward into attack whenever they thought they had Barcelona on the turn, on the ropes. Again, it takes daring and it's a huge risk, but it sometimes pays off to ensure that you storm Barcelona if you think you've got them in a transition situation. Not all teams try it, La Real did. Rino Matarazzo's team regularly tried that, and it's the reason that barely a minute passed in playing time, at least, from when Rashford scored the equaliser to Guedes nicking the winner. La Real absolutely went for the throat. Barcelona were dopey, and the game was won and lost in that moment. Kudos to Rino. A couple of other things now. I want to call bullshit on some of the commentary I've seen from within the Barcelona camp, but mainly maybe from fans and some fans with typewriters in the media. The general tone across all public spaces since last night is brilliant display, unlucky to lose, this confirms Barcelona will be champions. Lots of stuff which praises the admitted flair of Flick's team at Anoeta, but ignores the fact that they remain defensively dopey all over the pitch, not just in the back four. That type of response to the defeat ignores the fact that they're not learning lessons. This is the kind of ding-dong performance Barcelona put in last May against Inter Milan, for example, and lost for the same reasons. As a neutral, I've got no complaints when Barcelona lean on a feast of football like this, and it isn't often that an all-hands-on-deck performance by a team defending will escape the whirlwind. But analytically, having established Barcelona as a devastating creative force for the last season and a half, it's now on Flick and on those who sign and build a team at Barcelona to try and ensure that they grow up a little bit. I will admit that I predicted this defeat to people who asked me to analyse games in advance, because I saw Barcelona as being drained, lacking in sleep, lacking in time to refresh after their adventures in Saudi Arabia and a difficult trip to Santander. So, maybe it is simply a momentary thing, but I don't think so. I think Barcelona maintain a fundamental problem, and it's one that they have barely any time or sufficient resources to resolve quickly. One of the things that Flick must be thinking is that his team was more secure when Eric Garcia was playing in the midfield. Will he revert to that? Anyway, for those of you who simply love Spanish football and the thrills that it used to give you on Sunday night at 9 p.m. on Spanish clock, when we were on Sky back in the day, this was a reminder, a brilliant night of entertainment, often bizarre, sometimes startlingly good. And on top of it all, Barcelona were able to nominate a pantomime villain. He's behind you, no, he's definitely not behind you, in the referee Gil Manzano. Even though his crimes were nowhere nearly as big as accused. Although, I think Pedri wouldn't agree after the referee missed the horror tackle by Soler on the midfielder, and his ankle, bent double. VAR needed to resolve that properly. Gil Manzano, what were you thinking? Anyway, it's tight at the top because of Real Madrid 2, Levante 0. Well now, this was mapping out positions fast and hot and strong. In all my 24 years in Spain, I have never heard the Bernabeu so hostile, so vituperative at the president. The players too, oh yes. But this is a state of the nation referendum, and even in winning, Madrid lost. The fans were truly angry, and the ferocity of their whistling and jeering, plus the odd Florentino resign banner or chant, might not be completely unprecedented in their history, but I've never seen the like. Even the night when, reporting in the Bernabeu after Barcelona beat Rafa Benitez's Madrid 4-0, and the club, under orders I presume, turned the post-match music up to literally illegal, deafening levels in order to camouflage the level of anger turned on Florentino, and that's about a decade ago now. This is the biggest since then. And there was another position set out. Alvaro Arbeloa in his post-match presser said, "Those who are whistling and cheering don't love Real Madrid. I know where these campaigns come from. Frankly, for fuck's sake, it was a Trump-speak moment. Absolute fact-denying nonsense." He'd actually had quite an effect. His halftime subs and the change in pitch positions that he asked his team to occupy, plus the change in attitude and tempo after halftime, all made a gigantic difference and took the game away from Levante, who had in the first half looked eminently capable of a draw. Suddenly they looked like they were going to take a spanking. I'll be at the Bernabeu on Tuesday with you, if you're a socio, reporting on Madrid hosting Under Pressure Monaco. Join us. Look, make yourself a socio. £3.99 per month. It's the cost of a good coffee, or 30 quid to cover the rest of the season in Spanish football, right up until mid-July after the World Cup final. You'll get a tailor-made report directly from the post-match at the Santiago Bernabeu this week on Tuesday night, but every week we'll give you glorious content. Join us, become a subscriber, tell people, ask them to support us. We need that support. Betis Villarreal. Well, Manuel Pellegrini post-match, when Betis had won, said, "I completely disagree with the opinion that the team hasn't been performing well. We're just 1 point away from the Europa League spots. We've qualified in the Copa del Rey. The team has a clear footballing philosophy, and they're going to implement it relentlessly. Some days they'll play better, other days not so well. But I don't think we've had a crisis of results at any point." He continued, "I don't know what it means to decline." Good on you, Manuel. "There are very few teams," he added, "that are still alive in all three competitions. It would be fantastic, perhaps, to never make a mistake or never lose important matches. But that wouldn't be football." The Chilean concluded by saying, "I think it's normal to have these hiccups at some point, but I also think it's normal to overcome them as soon as possible." Well, gastrically, that's a really good idea. Then on Lo Celso, he said, "I'm really happy for Gio today, because Gio Lo Celso should leave the match and the pitch the way he did today every day. It's a huge applause, and not criticism due to a temperamental issue, one or other at certain moments that he does have to overcome. And that was in reference to the fact that Lo Celso did a beautiful job of winding up Villarreal's Santi Comasagna, to the extent that after their first incident, the Spanish midfielder had lost his temper and was eventually sent off for going back for extras. And Lo Celso had that evil grin on his face as he watched his rival departing, but was then subbed off for his own good because things had got very heated indeed. Big win for Betis, huge crowd, huge noise. Fornals, best in show again. West Ham, don't you wish you still had him? Getafe against Valencia, well, a 1-0 win for the away side, and really, in all honesty, an ugly game. I'm not going to sell you nonsense. It was enough to make you shiver. There was a lovely goal to win it from Captain Gaia, but, and I have to declare my colours here, the sooner Bordalas leaves Getafe, the happier I will be. As for Carlos Corberán, which makes it a really good week, victory in the Cup, victory against one of the ugliest teams in the league who are drawn into the relegation battle again. His survival fight carries on. Amunt, Carlos. Mallorca Athletic. Another fabulous, frantic 5-goal match. Now, Mallorca can be tepid, they can be spiritless, and I think we described them as anemic last week. But against Athletic, the blood was singing in their ears, and they were singing pirate songs too. Vedat Morici is one hell of a striker, we knew that, but it's been 10 years since his last hat-trick. Scored, okay geeks, in the Turkish second division, Giresunspor against Borunspor, if you really need to know. So no wonder he celebrated this like a wild thing. The first was a really neat finish, well created by Darder. The other two were penalties. The first saved by Unai Simon, but then tapped in on the rebound, and the second smashed home off that powerful Kosovan left foot of his. It was a rainy day on the island. The locals, pretty tired of what they've been seeing, pretty tired of what they've been witnessing recently, didn't bother turning up in big numbers. But those who were there at San Mosh really saw a rambunctious afternoon. Athletic lost in the end, partly because, let me think, they couldn't defend well, and partly because they keep giving away daft penalties. 2 handballs here, another one from Vivian, who just loves to rack up penalties, but they also suffered 2 red cards. One for Guruseta, who was on the pitch, one for Leque, who was on the bench. Both of them got mouthy. Now, you'll never have heard of the referee here, I don't think, Jose Luis Guzman Mancilla, because this was only his 10th La Liga match. But he threw red and yellow cards around like confetti, and his deliberations took so long that there were overall 19 minutes of added time played. 2 good goals for the visitors, especially the net blaster from Nico Williams, whose form is returning week by week. But poor old Athletic, Los Leones, really are in a tailspin. And, to make it worse, it's Champions League week. They're not dead in the water yet, but playing like this, they will be soon. Atleti beat Alaves at the Metropolitano. It was 1-0, and 1-0 used to be the signature score for Simeone. It used to be the scoreline which brought him titles. Copa, leagues, European trophies, but that's long gone. This game really turned on 2 specific things. Alaves came to defend with a low block, which they managed reasonably adequately, but without a tactic about how they were going to score on the break. So look, it's as simple as this. When you have either Tony Martinez or Lucas Boye up front, big lumps, decent in the air, but not quick, you will never, not in 10 million years, out-sprint a defence and score on the break. So I'd love to hear Caudet, the Alaves coach, explain his thinking there. The other reason that the points went Rojiblanco was Sorlot, and this is a comical study. The poor guy makes 1 millimetrical decisions that the fans don't like, and they immediately whistle and boo him. He plays with a face like thunder all the time, just like mine is when every fucker's around here making noise while I'm trying to talk to you guys. Sorlot gives death stares to the players around him when they fail to service the ball to him. But when the moment came, when the opportunity beckoned, or half an opportunity beckoned, the second half cross from Barrios down the right hand side, the Norwegian scored an absolute blinder of a header. Jack Reacher power. Points to Atleti, but no style points. Again. Celta Rayo, listen, they keep coming. The sound of chickens coming home to roost for poor old Rayo was a theme of this match at Balaidos. The Madrid side don't have a big enough squad for the battle that they're in, and they must be thanking the Lord that their European adventure has been parked to one side until March. That's now 2 red cards in 2 defeats in the last 2 matches, elimination from the Cup, and thanks to this 3-0 whopping, pushed down into the relegation battle as half the teams in La Liga are. Celta ran riot here. They're a much more energetic, much more fun team to watch. But of course, as ever in La Liga, there was a dust-up. It was a horrible tackle from Mendy on Svedberg. A long, unbelievably long VAR intervention, and Aspas running onto the pitch, even though he was one of the Celta substitutes, to start arguing, and to start a Barney too, and they get booked by the referee. Wonderful player, genius invention, lovely technique, moany-faced bastard temperament. And you can quote me on that. 2 goals from youth team players that Giraldez has promoted to the senior team. Noisy stadium, 3 points. Europa League action at Balaidos this week again. Lille, one of the high flyers in League One, in a must-win match for the Sky Blues. What terrific preparation, and for us, what terrific entertainment. What have I got left for you? Oh yeah, Osasuna Oviedo. I hope you were listening. This was a kicker of a match, and you have my full permission to adopt that word. It means a beezer of a match. You with me now? What do you mean you don't know that word either? Anyway, flat out, non-stop, high octane, Mad Magazine, National Animals Lampoon House entertainment. 5 goals, count them, lots of other goal opportunities, and a monster atmosphere. In the 2021 World Stadium of the Year to boot. Points to take away from the match. The Interceptor was right to praise Fede Viñas last week. Another goal, another top-class performance. Hassan, this French winger, is growing in confidence and thrills. Stick with him. Victor Munoz. Pedro and I have been super praising Victor Munoz all season, and this was another Popeye performance. Chunks down the spinach, disappears off in a cloud of dust. Thigh muscles the size of Darlington, frightening speed on the ball, fan-pleasing daring, and a thumping winning goal for 3-2. Poor old Oviedo. But if they'd hired Almada from the start of the season, instead of fanning around like they've been doing, pretending to stick with Paunovic, then hiring Carrion, who the fans couldn't stand and booed, then they wouldn't be doomed to relegation, which increasingly, despite palpable improvements, they seem to be. Espanyol 0, Girona 2. This lot, Girona, are a story. Bottom of the table after 11 matches, powder puff defending, morale down about their boots, fans disinterested or angry, Michel, their coach, sounding lost when he spoke about his team. Currently 9, count them again, 9 players out long term or coming back from AFCON. They needed to use 3 academy kids, not first team players, to make up their squad on Friday, but still couldn't list the maximum permitted number of players. And yet, they've won 4 of the last 5 matches. They're 9th. Marc-Andre ter Stegen looks increasingly likely to join them. And the Ukrainian that their coach last week called a beast in the penalty area, Vanat, Vladislav to you and me, scored another 2 here. The first needed retaking from 11 metres, but Vanat didn't flinch. He stepped up, took it again, and buried it into Dmitrovic's right-hand panel at the side of the goal mouth. Brilliant take. And then he scored the killer second penalty in added time. But, nota bene, go and look for the penalty decision. Yosu Galek on the pitch and Juan Luis Pulido in the VAR office gave the worst penalty of all time in that second one. Hey-ho, Girona march on. An unlikely but very enjoyable twist in the La Liga season. 3 straight away wins now. It's a week of Champions League football. You can count on me from the Bernabeu if you're a socio. And then at some stage, although I'll be on the travels, a look at Barcelona when they're in Czechia. Join us, ask people to join us, support us. Revista de la Liga needs you. Thank you.